Tom Budlong, age 84. I pay my taxes in Los Angeles, but as far as I'm concerned, I'm home here. California I discovered when I came out here in 1959, but this place, I think, was probably about 25 years ago when I was tracing out old trails. And the trail of interest here was the one that went between Keeler and the Death Valley Mines. Why this place is so attractive to me? Well, it's like a lot of other places that haven't been civilized. This place gets along on its own. It doesn't need us. You go to the big city, it needs us, and there's all that commotion down there. And this is so quiet, and everything, it takes care of itself. And that's a form of magic.
Conglomerate Mesa is just this really special, unique Joshua Tree Island out there between the Sierras, which is, the highest mountains in the area. Then you get to the Iños right there, and then all the way to the lowest point in the contiguous United States, Death Valley. Conglomerate Mesa is right there in the middle, and there's a lot of lowlands around it, and there's another few peaks right above it, and it's just this beautiful space of where wildlife and plants converge at this unique elevation.
Our name for this valley is Payahunadu, or Payahoop. They both kind of mean the same thing. They both have to do with the water that continually flows. And this place was all about the water. There was a huge river flowed into this lake, Patsiata that we call it, that had all kinds of rivers and creeks flowing into it. It was a source of life. So there was everything you needed. It was amazing and used by a lot of people. So when you looked in this valley, everything had to do with water.
So what I'm looking at is some of the land on Conglomerate Mesa and the surrounding territory, which is some of the nicest undisturbed land in California that you can see. This should have been a wilderness area, and it was considered for wilderness, and it was dropped from wilderness about 1995, and that's when the miners looked at it and said, oh, there might be some gold there. Between then and now, I've logged 10 mines that have looked and left. So we're working on the 11th one right now, which is this K2 Gold outfit.
You look at these companies, the one we're dealing right now and the last one, both come out of Canada. It's really scary when you get those people that have no interest in this place other than to take.
The law is, if there is an issue that's brought up that needs to be addressed, providing you mitigate that risk, they can't stop you from actually going ahead with it. You have the right to mine. You have the right to explore and the right to mine.
I've been an environmentalist in Inyo County for almost 50 years, almost half a century. And if this mining pit goes in at Conglomerate Mesa, this would be the most destructive environmental act in the history of Inyo County since the city of Los Angeles came to the Owens Valley in the early 1900s.
Right now they've done exploratory drilling, right, where they've essentially dug to find out what they think is in there in terms of the richness of the soil and the minerals. They are currently in the process of awaiting approval or denial to expand their exploration, which is going to be extremely damaging. They're requesting 5 to 7 miles of new road, as well as over 100 additional holes than they've already dug. And that's just to continue to test, and for their purpose, testing means find more reason to dig an open pit gold mine.
I can't see that this next round of drilling, which is 10,000 meters, it's a significant size program for us, but it's not going to cause undue degradation.
They say they're just doing exploratory, But what are they exploring for? You know, they keep, oh, that's down the road. We don't need to talk about that. Yeah, we do. That's the trouble. You don't think about the future. You just think about getting $1 in your pocket right now. That's not what it's about. Even if you're not destroying it now, you're paving the way for somebody to come in and destroy it. The way that they mine gold and silver and all these other heavy metals today is not like they did it, you know, in the romantic age of mining, which a lot of people in this valley were part of. My family was a part of that because you had to have a job, and that was where the jobs were. But they don't just go and dig a little hole in the ground anymore. They just go and tear up the whole place. There would be nothing left of that mesa but a big hole that you could see for miles. My family's lived in this valley, taken care of this valley and the mountains, and they take care of us for millennia. As far back as you can trace my family, we've been here. This area is barely hanging on as it is from what, you know, how people have treated it in the last 150 years.
We do expect K2 and Mojave Precious Metals to gather up support and raise investor money to then turn around and sell this to a different company that will do the actual open pit gold mine. They want to find out what's in that soil to make sure that they can make it attractive to investors, because gold is at a all-time high right now, and some people think money is more important than a mountain out in the California desert, but we live out here, so.
There is nothing sustainable about mining. It is purely extraction. You dig the hole and you leave. Nowadays, they're able to, just on the scale of it, giant equipment, dig such massive holes. And they can get just fractionalized gold. Gold you can't even see in the rock. The first thing they would do is they would work on access, improve roads that are there, build new roads if they needed them. Then they would scrape everywhere that they're going to develop, where the pit's going to be, where the spoils piles are going to be, where the leach ponds are going to be, where the leach piles are going to be, where their buildings are going to be. Then they have to work on power. Are they going to have just generators and work on it that way, or are they going to bring in power? Then they would begin removing the overlay, the rock that doesn't have the ore in it. They finally get down to where they have the ore body. And they bring that rock out, they crush it, and then put it in these piles that sit on these, it's plastic material, through sprinklers, drip a cyanide solution, kind of dissolve and combine with that cyanide and make a new compound. It'll leach down through, hit that liner, and then drain off into a pond or somewhere where they will collect what's called the leachate, which is the gold bonded with the cyanide material.
Can you imagine those giant yellow trucks that can haul 20 tons of rock at the same time, driving through here, digging holes to get the gold out? A giant hole. It would be absolutely destructive.
We know that facilities of this type use hundreds of millions of gallons of water a year, and it's a safe estimate that a facility on Conglomerate Mesa would use about 200 million gallons of fresh water a year.
So where are they going to get water? The closest water is probably Owens Lake. Now, if they were to drill a well there, You've got state lands, DWP, and BLM. If BLM allowed them to drill a well, they'd be competing with Los Angeles and the Dust Mitigation Project for water. And both the Dust Mitigation Project and the city of Los Angeles, I'm sure, would take higher priority than a private mine.
We have regulations that say you're supposed to put the land back together again, but you can't put this back together again. Any damage you do from a mine like that would be erased only in the terms of geologic time, and that to me is a tragedy. That was done in the Briggs mine about 40 miles east of here in the last 20 years, and the earth and the civilization is no better for the gold that came out of the Briggs mine, but there it is, a giant scar in Penniman Valley, and we don't want that to happen here. It would be a tragedy.
The fact that it's just not remediable. You know, like when you take the soil and blow it up and sift it through a cyanide solution, just because you pile it back up doesn't mean it's like it was before. Desert soil is alive, and when the wind blows over it, it stays still. And once you kill it, it just becomes a source of dust, and it's no longer living, can't support plant life, can't support animal life like it did before.
I feel like the gold company is trying to convince us that there's nothing out there. There's nothing to be lost. It's just some rock and some trees and some desert. And I'm like, you're crazy. Like, this place is so vibrant. Native people, you know, places that look like they're just desert, for instance, or just nature, just open space. Our connection to that is often explained in a term called traditional ecological knowledge, which is just a whole nother layer of understanding that, unfortunately, if you're haven't been in a particular place for very long, you don't value what is right underneath your nose. And I'm not saying this is only a native thing, because there's plenty of non-native people that build relationship with a place over time. But I think it's in everyone's best interest to act indigenous to a place and learn that traditional ecological knowledge, to really learn about the interconnectedness, the sacredness and values of places beyond the US dollar. The plants have value, the animals have value, even those rocks have value. And there's a lot of things that can't be explained on a spreadsheet.
The people who, if you like, are most on the offensive and against the mining are the people who tend to retire from the bigger cities. And it's a few of the people who are living there for a lifestyle. But I tell you, in Lone Pine, which is extremely open-minded, local community of 1,800 people, we have a lot of support, a lot more support than we've been given credit for. We're winning over quite a lot of the businesses and the local people in terms of supporting what we're trying to do. We've got an open book, Matt. We're transparent. We have an office in the small town of Lone Pine. We have numerous open days. And so far, we haven't, as far as I can see, we haven't missed a step so far.
Protecting all of the land is important to me, and also protecting this mesa and protecting all of the animals and plants that don't have a voice. The four-leggeds and the plants, they deserve protection just as much as we all do. And it's indigenous land. Like, this is native land and we need to protect it.
All this moving dirt requires these giant dirt haulers. They burn a lot of diesel, getting the overburden out and getting the gold ore out of the ground. So this is really an alchemy of converting diesel into gold is what it amounts to.
K2 Gold is going to establish an open pit mine on the mesa directly above our well. That means our watershed. They are going to pollute and contaminate our watershed. And this is saying nothing about the hole in the earth that they're going to create. And none of these companies ever fix what they start, okay? They all say they will, and they never do. And it's a homeland for the Paiute and Shoshone people. It's terrible. It really is.
So, if they propose to blast the crest of the Inyos to smithereens, yeah, I might have a thought or two about that. They don't identify with the land. It's not in their backyard. It's out of sight, out of mind. We look at it every day, and for a lot of people, it's home, or and a spiritual home. It provides a sense of well-being to people, some people.
It's just sad. It's sad that people have that attitude, that it's okay to do this in somebody else's land. That's just scary when people, because they're not thinking of anybody but themselves, or take into consideration how somebody else needs this land to survive.
They talk about reclamation, but that's a joke. The mining companies change names and go through bankruptcy so fast, it becomes a fog as to who's responsible. The scar just sits there.
I believe by using our intellect, our innovation, our ingenuity, we can truly make a beautiful place to live together while protecting this planet. It can happen. And maybe this region of California, Payahunari, will have to be the model for that, you know? Since there's been so much destruction here in a short period of time, maybe we can reverse it and have a lot of restoration in a short period of time and reimagine Payahunari.
So what we need you to do right now is to raise your voice to protect Conglomerate Mesa from this destructive project. Please go to the Bureau of Land Management e-planning website and raise your voice for Conglomerate Mesa and against the destructive mining proposal.